knows that Alpo was a very, very polarizing figure. At least in the black community he was, and in the hip-hop community. And the reason why he was such a polarizing figure isn't because he was a snitch. It wasn't because he was an informant. You know, that's simple. That's too easy. That's too black and white. That's too surface level. The real reason why Alpo is so hated is much deeper than that. Because if people hated him simply because he was a snitch, he wouldn't. His story, his personality, his thoughts, his imagery wouldn't resonate 30, 40 years down the line. The reason that Alpo was able to remain in people's consciousness, and the reason why Alpo was able to remain in pop culture for as long as he has, isn't because he was a snitch. Because when people get outed as a snitch or an informant or whatever, or, you know, people find out that someone cooperated with the government to get a reduced jail sentence, eventually people move on and forget about that person. Alpo is the only one in that category that continues to resonate on such an intense level. Even when he was in jail, his story was captivating people that wasn't even alive or wasn't even adults when he was out there moving around. And the reason is because, psychologically speaking, Alpo represents everything that we've ever been taught about the street life. When your mother used to come to you and tell you that you couldn't trust your friends, that you're bringing your friends in the house to play video games, you're young, you still don't have any life experience, and your mother tells you, hey, your friends are going to get you into trouble, hey, you can't trust those boys, I don't want those boys in my house. Or when you hear people say things like, the streets only have two outcomes, either you're going to die or you're going to go to jail for life. Or when you just think about how tragic and how dark the streets are in general. You know, when you think of the streets in terms of imagery, you think about darkness. You think about a world where people can't trust each other. You think about a world where people stab each other in the back. You think about a world where it's all about survival, where you can't be a good human being. You can't be a good person. That's not allowed. You're living in a world of snakes. You're living in a world of bears, lions, tigers. You're living in this animalistic world where morality and principle doesn't really mean anything. What matters is survival of the fittest. What matters is who's the quickest with the gun, who gets who first. And I think Alpo is the face of all of that. I think when you think about all of those things that I just said, Alpo, for some reason, has been selected as the face of that dark world known as the streets. He's the person who you can actually look at and say he spiritually symbolizes all of these bad things that we've heard about the street life. He's the face of all the evil and all the mistrust and all the treachery that exists in the streets. You know what I mean? Because like I said, if he was just a simple cooperating witness, a guy who snitched in order to get a reduced jail sentence, eventually the people would have forgot about him. There were people that were bigger and much more worse than Alpo who snitched to get a reduced jail sentence. But we don't talk about them. Their stories don't resonate. Their imagery doesn't resonate. Their face isn't infamous. Their face isn't notorious. Their face doesn't inspire us to have these strong, intense feelings about what they did. Their story doesn't cause debates. Their story doesn't cause people to actually to have these visceral reactions. You know what I mean? Like I said, Alpo is the face of the streets. When you think about your mom telling you that you can't trust your friends, when you think about the darkness and the unpredictability and the murderous nature of the streets, you always think there's a boogeyman out there that's going to get you. When you're out there alone at night, there's somebody out there that you just can't recognize. You can't see them. They're going to sneak up on you and get you. That boogeyman factor. And I think that Alpo allows people to put a face on that boogeyman.